vanishing folklore and belief. The Fairy Mythology by Thomas Cately. Public domain reading. Trolls in Scandinavian folklore. Trolls are represented as dwelling inside of hills, mounds, and hillocks, whence they are also called hill people, folk. Sometimes in single families, sometimes in societies. In the ballads they are described as having kings over them, but never so in the popular legend. Their character seems gradually to have sunk down to the level of the peasantry, in proportion as the belief in them was consigned to the same class. They are regarded as extremely rich, for when, on great occasions of festivity, they have their hills raised up on red pillars, people that have chanced to be passing by have seen them shoving large chests full of money to and fro, and opening and clapping down the lids of them. Their hill dwellings are very magnificent inside. They live, said one of Mr. Ant's guides, in fine houses of gold and crystal. My father saw them once in the night, when the hill was open on St. John's night. They were dancing and drinking, and it seemed to him as if they were making signs to him to go to them. But his horse snorted and carried him away. Whether he would go or no, there is a great number of them in the Guldberg, Gold Hill, and that they have brought into it all the gold and silver that people buried in the great Russian War. They are obliging and neighborly, freely lending and borrowing, and elsewise keeping up a friendly intercourse with mankind. But they have a sad propensity to thieving, not only stealing provisions, but even women and children. They marry, have children, bake and brew, just as the peasant himself does. A farmer one day met a hill man and his wife, and a whole squad of stumpy little children in his fields. And people used often to see the children of the man who lived in the hill of Kund in Jutland, climbing up the hill and rolling down after one another with shouts of laughter. The trolls have a great dislike to noise, probably from a recollection of the time when Thor used to be flinging his hammer after them, so that the hanging of bells in the churches have almost driven them almost out of the country. The people of Ebeltoft were once sadly plagued by trolls, as they plundered their pantries in a most unconscionable manner. So they consulted a very wise and pious man, and his advice was that they should hang a bell in the steeple of the church. They did so, and they were soon eased of the trolls. These beings have some very extraordinary and useful properties. They can, for instance, go about invisibly, or turn themselves into any shape. They can foresee future events. They can confer prosperity, or the contrary, on a family that they bestow bodily strength of anyone, and in short perform numerous feats beyond the power of mankind. Of personal beauty, they have not much to boast. The Ebeltoft dwarves mentioned above were often seen, and they had immoderate humps on their backs and long crooked noses. They were dressed in grey jackets, and they wore pointed red caps. Old people in Zealand say that when the trolls were in the country, they used to go from their hill to the village of Gudmundstrup through the stone meadow, and that people, when passing that way, used to greet tall men in long black clothes. Some foolishly spoke to them and wished them good evening, but they never got any other answer than the trolls hurrying past them saying, "Me, me, 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 me." Thanks to the industry of Mr. Thiel, who had been indefatigable